company is the province dealer, exclusive dealer for a major American company. We were served with a notice of termination of the contract.
My husband was laid off of his job, and they told him that they were going to pay him $8,000 if he would sign a letter saying that he would, not sue them.
I had a gentleman that had written me a check for $3,500, and then he put a stop payment on it because basically he just said he didn't want to pay me anymore. He was through paying me.
The week after Christmas, I received notice from my mortgage company that they were about to foreclose.
It is often said that the roof of the law covers us all. It applies to everyone, but it also protects everyone. Unfortunately, the concept, justice for all, for many of us, is a far cry from reality. I'm here today with Mike Moore, the former Attorney General of the great state of Mississippi. And Mike Moore and I, we've spent a lifetime in the courtrooms of America. Oklahoma for me mostly, and Mississippi mostly for Mike. Most people don't realize this, but you were a district attorney. Just like I was in Muskogee, Oklahoma, you were in Pascagoula, Mississippi, district attorney, but after that, a 4-term attorney general. And during your 4 terms attorney general, a David Goliath kind of thing happened. You decided to take on the biggest corporations in this whole world. What was that all about?
Well, in 1994, we sued all the tobacco companies in America. You know, Mike, we sued them because they were not telling the truth about their products. And so I was fortunate to lead a fight that grew into, from Mississippi in 1994 to 4 or 5 states to a nationwide effort that ended up in a settlement of $246 billion against the tobacco industry, plus making them tell the truth about their product. I have to tell you, it made me feel pretty good as a lawyer to be involved in that.
You know, Mike, looking back on our careers, and we still got a ways to go, I might add.
We hope.
We hope. But looking back on our careers, what have we learned about the justice system?
Well, first thing I know is it costs too much. I mean, if you go out and try to hire a lawyer, if I walked into your office and tried to hire you, I mean, I can't imagine what your hourly rate is now, but I'm sure it's on up there being a former Attorney General of the great state of Oklahoma. So if I tried to hire you, I probably couldn't afford you myself. So how does an ordinary person who has a terrible thing happen to them, or maybe not so terrible thing happen to them, how do they afford a lawyer?
Well, I don't want to sound flippant or sarcastic, because I know you're asking me a sincere question, but the truth is, I've thought about this a lot, I couldn't afford myself right now. I mean, if I had to hire Mike Turpin with the hourly rate my law firm expects me to charge, it's just ridiculous. That's where prepaid legal comes in. I don't think there's any question about it.
Yep.
It creates an opportunity for the working men and women across North America to have access to the best law firms in the whole world. I like to believe somehow, some way, we can level the playing field, balance the scales of justice, open the courthouse doors for working men and women across North America. And I think prepaid legal creates that opportunity to have access to the same quality lawyers. It seems like it works that way.
The other thing that I like about prepaid legal is that, you know, you don't always want to call a lawyer when you're in trouble. Sometimes you want to call a lawyer to prevent trouble. Read a contract. You know, maybe you're having a skirmish with your landlord, or maybe you're unsure about some move you're going to take one way or the other. Prepaid legal offers free calls to the lawyers. You know, they have a 24/7 line for emergency situations. And this is something you can't get from an ordinary law firm.
I call that, what you just described, I like to just say, and that's what the company calls it as well, it's nothing profound, but preventive law. The whole idea of preventive law. Call the lawyer before you get in trouble. Call the lawyer to stay out of trouble. The truth is, you don't have any rights unless you know what they are. Now think about that. You don't really have any rights unless you know what they are. And I like to say that, I learned this in law school, Mike, many, many years ago, the law is legal instead of logical. The law is legal instead of logical, meaning you might do what's reasonable and logical, but it may not be legal in a certain circumstance. I mean, you got to have a lawyer a phone call away to explain to you what your options are in any given circumstance. And I think that's why prepaid legal is so helpful in a very daily way. You can call a quality-conscious, service-oriented law firm a phone call away, and it helps you stay out of trouble before you ever get into trouble. That's what I like about the product, probably more than anything else, the concept of preventive law.
Once you're in the system, I think that the playing field is fairly level. The problem is getting into the system. Those with money, with businesses, with large estates, they usually they have lawyers, and they use them regularly. And if they have a legal problem, why, they have immediate access to representation. People of moderate means or the indigent are those that are most impacted. An individual who may be earning $50,000 a year with a family of 4 to support, there's just not any money left over to finance a serious legal problem. Prepaid legal, through this mechanism that has been developed, is they're making legal representation possible for persons of moderate means.
We called back the law firm and we submitted the notice, and they agreed with our position that no, they could not terminate us within 90 days because our term was for 1 year. This is a very powerful victory that Prepaid Legal has won for us, which is a single letter, 1 letter. And we were able to basically change the mind of a so powerful $60 billion corporation.
We called the attorneys. They wrote a letter on our behalf. And a couple of weeks later, we got a letter back from that company stating our case had no merit, but in the interest of time, they were willing to settle for $64,000.
What I did is I picked up the phone, I called my provider law firm and explained to them the situation. Well, they drafted this gentleman a letter, and about 14 days later, I got all of my money, which was real exciting, and that didn't cost me anything extra.
I called my Prepaid Legal provider law firm, I explained my situation, and they helped me to understand my rights and the options available to me. Through their advice and their counsel, I was able to prevent foreclosure and to actually refinance my home, and had done so by the end of January.
What gave these people the courage and the financial ability to find justice? These are testimonials received from real people facing real-life issues. The testimonials were given by people who own a life events legal plan from Prepaid Legal Services Incorporated.
I think a lot of people, when they hear about Prepaid Legal, they think maybe it's too good to be true. They read articles in the Wall Street Journal saying lawyers are now charging $1,000 an hour, and they have a hard time believing that for not very much money a month, they can have access to really good lawyers. Doesn't seem to make sense. There must be some sort of catch. But there really is no catch. You've got just an army of great lawyers out there who aren't totally driven by the bottom line. They're driven by a desire to solve problems for average middle-class people.
It's a calculation we make someday. We said, you know, someday we'll be sick, and someday we'll need a filling, and someday our kids will wreck our car, and maybe we'll do it ourselves, and someday we may be sued, or someday we may need to sue somebody that has hurt us. And so what Harlan did is he said, you know, people believe in putting a few dollars down on a regular basis so that they're covered when things happen. And he was able to aggregate a lot of that together, and good lawyers who would work at a good rate because of the broad coverage that they were able to get. And I think it's been a great American success story.
You need good, affordable legal representation. And Harlan Stonecipher, who was just a visionary, saw this for all communities. And it certainly has accented the African-American community to help. You got people who have bad records, people who have trouble can now call Prepaid Legal and get good representation. When I studied Prepaid Legal and looked at it and saw the worth of it, I said, this is good. This is something that the National Black Chamber of Commerce should support, and we certainly do.
About 10 years ago, we were looking for some additional products to be able to offer through our system. Our company, you know, we work with families' financial futures. We sit down with families and we do a financial needs analysis where we look at their protection and whether they're adequately protected for their family. We look at their debt and whether they've got too much debt. We look at their assets and whether they're actually accumulating a meaningful retirement. But one of the things that was missing is that most families don't have a will. And we started looking for a vehicle to be able to do that because it fits so well with the insurance piece of our business. We found Prepaid Legal. I came out and met with Harlan Stonecipher. We were totally impressed with the company, the track record of the company, that this was a stable, long-term company that had a product that really worked for families, but most importantly, that the product really fit with what we do for families. So it really was kind of a match made in heaven between, you know, kind of two companies who are very similar, but also do something tremendously great for families.
We were at the point where we were facing foreclosure on our home. It was a really difficult time, and we did a lot of negotiating with the banks. So both banks, because we had two loans, both banks had agreed to the sale, but we had two liens on the house, and one of them was a $12,000 lien. I talked to them. They said, no, we're not going to release it. Well, if they didn't release it, we were definitely going to have to go through foreclosure. So I called my provider law firm and talked to them and told them the situation, and they said, well, we have to tell you that they normally don't respond to these types of letters, that they do not just walk away. And I said, I'd really like to try it anyway. And so they wrote the letter, and the response was, well, okay, instead of the $12,000 that you owe us, give us $1,000 and we will release the lien. So we said, of course. So we gave them $1,000 out of escrow. They had released the lien, and so we didn't have a foreclosure on our credit report, which would have been devastating. And we were able to move on with our lives.
Over the past several years, as a result of an introduction by my good friend Mike Turpin, I've gotten to know and now consider a friend and business associate, Mr. Harlan Stonecipher, the founder and CEO of the New York Stock Exchange-listed company Prepaid Legal Services Incorporated.
Where did it all begin? How did you come up with this idea?
Well, Mike, thank you for being here. You know, it really started, the idea, the concept, back in 1969 with an automobile accident that I had. And it was an accident that wasn't my fault. In fact, the Highway Patrol gave the ticket to that other party. But a little bit later, that other party wound up suing me. So when I'm talking to people today and somebody says to me, well, you know, I don't know where I'll ever need a lawyer because I'm not going to do anything wrong, I say, well, what does that have to do with it? I had all the things that people normally have and that we normally are trying to plan for and take care of ahead of time. But the one thing I didn't have was anything to take care of the legal expenses, my legal bills. And I can tell you, Mike, I was just not prepared. I wasn't prepared financially. I wasn't prepared emotionally. I didn't even really know a lawyer. I'm like most people in America are today. They don't really know lawyers. They're intimidated by lawyers, and they're concerned about what it might cost. What we do for people is not just those real serious, catastrophic type things. We're also talking about just everyday